Normally, I wouldn't talk about something in early access because I personally prefer to talk about a finished product. But I've been playing Ultrakill, developed by Hakita and published by New Blood, and god, I can't not talk about this. Because Ultrakill is like this. Because Ultrakill is like this. Because Ultrakill is like... Oh wait, no, cut the clip, not like that, not like that. I've been following Ultrakill's development on and off for a while. The creator, Hakita, used to be a regular on a forum I frequented, Facepunch, which was basically the official Gary's Mod forums until Gary decided he didn't really care anymore. While on there, Hakita posted bits and pieces of a game he was working on, a game that would become Ultrakill. And it looked neat, it always looked neat. But fast forward a little while, and now Ultrakill is a New Blood production. New Blood, if you don't know, being the company behind Dusk and Amid Evil, two of the shiniest of shining jewels of the retro FPS revival. I mean, it helps a lot that all the people under the wing of New Blood are just the coolest and nicest people. The guy in charge, Dave Oshry for example, is a total meme of a man, and I adore him. He's bonkers.
Is this good? Can you hear, comrades? You can hear music? Yes! Now we play Slav Dusk! Yes!
But above all else, he has an eye for quality. With a New Blood stamp on a game, I've come to expect a pretty high standard. And with Ultrakill, I am not let down in the slightest. So what is Ultrakill? The tagline of the game is this: mankind is dead, blood is fuel, hell is full. In 3 short sentences, you are told pretty much all you need to know. Mankind is dead. You play as a robot called V1. Blood is fuel. You use blood to heal. Hell is full. Oh, you better believe you're going to be fighting a lot of demons and beasties. Mechanically, Ultrakill isn't what you might expect either. Rather than just being the usual retro FPS thing of filling an arena with monsters and blaring heavy metal music while you tear them apart with a huge arsenal, it places a focus on style, mobility, and speed. It almost feels wrong to call Ultrakill a retro FPS because it really puts its own spin on it. There wasn't anything like this back then. While marketing the game, Osh referred to it as Devil May Quake, and yeah, that's kinda apt. Devil May Cry and Quake mixed together. It's a shooter blended with character action mechanics. Pulling off different moves and mixing up strategies to cause maximum carnage is heavily encouraged, starting with D for destruction and ranking your way up to the titular Ultrakill. I can't tell you how many endorphins are released into my brain when I see that I've destroyed everything in sight, with this yellow text basically being the equivalent of that one Robert Redford nodding gif. But let's back up a bit and talk about movement. What does this game allow you to do to get around? You can run and jump, as is the standard since 1996, but there's also a dash, a bit like Doom Eternal, wall jumps and slides like Titanfall, and a slam down like, Borderlands 3. Hey, it works. I'm a big advocate of sliding in video games as well. Honestly, any shooter that allows me to slide gets a big thumbs up from me. Even if it's Borderlands 3. Yeah, I said it. That game has fun movement. Fight me. But combining all those aspects in Ultrakill, oh, it's glorious. And it persuades me to get better and use all my movement tricks to my advantage. Someone who gets good at this game could easily do like a no damage run, and I'd like to see... Oh, people are already doing it. Oh, well, I guess I have some catching up to do. The first weapon you're given in Ultrakill is the revolver, which is a really dependable workhorse. It may be tempting to forego this weapon as you pick up more, but I'd really recommend you don't. It's good. Each weapon has several alternate modes of fire as well. For the revolver, you can start out with a charged laser blast, which can destroy glass and chew through groups of low tier enemies. The second mode allows you to flip out a coin, which, if you then shoot, ricochets into a nearby enemy for critical damage. There's also some specific timings where you can split a shot in two, which can be achieved by hitting the coin while there's a sparkle effect on it. The coin flipping is super powerful provided you can aim. If you can hit shots, you'll just be a death-dealing machine within moments. Next up is a shotgun, which is... yes. The first alternate fire throws out an explosive projectile, which I didn't quite understand at first, and just flaccidly spat it out a couple times. You've got to hold it down. There's a great interaction with this though, where if you slam down and throw a bunch of enemies in the air with the shockwave, You can then blow them out the sky to get the Fireworks award. It's glorious to pull off, but I miss this more than I'd like. The second shotgun mode is like an overcharge. I'm not the best with this one, and I'd more often than not just get myself killed with it. That's my fault though. That being said, dying in Ultrakill doesn't even feel that bad, because you jump right back into the action immediately. A lot like, say, Super Meat Boy. It means you're not bogged down with frustrating loading screens that deter you from trying again. You're just back in the mix and ready to kick some ass and keep trying to get better. So what else is there on offer? Well, there's a nail gun a bit like Quake's, which almost feels a bit too good sometimes. There's a type of enemy called a malicious face, which is basically the first boss. But every subsequent time it turns up, you have this thing, and it just melts the poor bastard. And if that wasn't enough, this thing has alternate modes too. The first one fires out a magnetic nail that draws fire towards it. I didn't see the full glory of this at first, but I realized you can shoot around corners with this thing. Now that's neat. The second is kind of like an overdrive. I didn't use it a lot, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And then there's the rail cannon. Not a rail gun, a rail cannon. Oh goodness, yes. I think that railguns very much have to be held to the gold standard of the one from Quake 2, which is frankly perfect. I'm happy to report that Ultrakill's rail cannon lives up to the hype and creates mass devastation. The first mode allows you to zoom, which is good. This is basically an amped up sniper rifle after all. The second alternate fire mode is, a drill, where the railgun applies a damage over time effect as well as the original blast. It's good for bigger enemies. The third alternate mode is called Malicious, because it does that thing that the malicious face does when it gets mad. And yes, I just said third alternate mode. It looks like each weapon will have 4 modes by the time the game is done, and I feel giddy with anticipation and scared of how much destruction I might be causing with these. And that's not counting the arms. The arms that V1 can have equipped are also important, but let's start with the base arm. It can punch, and it punches fast, handy for slapping some health blood out of enemies. But it can also parry. If you time your punch correctly, you can throw projectiles back at enemies or block their attacks entirely. As someone who frequently plays Pyro in Team Fortress 2 and just loves to airblast rockets back in the faces of soldiers, the parry just delights me on a primal level. And if you're really good, you can even punch your own shotgun pellets to turn them into explosives. Yes, you can punch your own shotgun pellets. This is a real thing, but you can equip other arms. So far there's just this one, a red arm, which can be used to create a shockwave, but it punches slower, and it can't parry, which is a fair trade-off. With all these alternate modes and arms, you're going to be constantly switching things up, and there's a worry it could get overwhelming. It does for me a little bit sometimes, but I trust that Hikita will ease the player in. For the upgrades currently in the game, that has been the case. It goes without saying that Ultrakill is decidedly intense. I can't really play this game for sessions that are too long because sometimes it actually makes my hand cramp a bit. And no, not because of the V1 fan art, get that out of here. I mean, using my mouse constantly and violently to get through encounters is actually a bit straining on my right hand, but honestly I don't think I'd have it any other way. This game hurts so good. After getting through a long, arduous encounter and feeling the slight dull pain in my hand is just a way of saying, hell yeah, I fought hard there. I mean, this isn't going to be the same feeling for everyone, I'm just a glutton for punishment. My regular takeaway orders are just intensely spicy foods. Some might call me a masochist. That's maybe fair. I did make a video defending the deaths in King's Quest V after all. But Ultrakill scratches a great edge for me, much like a pizza slathered in jalapenos does. The enemies in Ultrakill are varied and can catch you off guard easily. You might take some of them for granted, but if you turn your back, they can and will drain your health. It's lucky then that health is replenished through blood. After all, blood is fuel. This means that getting up close to your foes is sometimes the best way to survive. I love this risk-reward kind of playstyle, and it works so well here. This does mean you can bop some easier enemies on the head over and over to gain health. They're like little walking Happy Meals. I love it. The enemy designs themselves are pretty great too. From the basic fodder like the husks to the weirder stuff like the teleporting Mind Flayer. It's all great stuff. I especially love Swords Machine as well, purely for that name. As a boss fight, I don't find him incredibly challenging, but the way he's hyped up, seeing him throughout the level and the eventual fight itself, fantastic. One thing that concerned me when I first saw Ultrakill was that it all looked a bit industrial. The areas you fought in didn't seem that inspired, and I was worried that the whole game would be like that. The early access levels and even the demo pretty quickly put that fear to rest. I mean, look at this. I love how this area is clearly a screen, just projecting the illusion of an idyllic blue sky. But yeah, the variety in level design is much more diverse than I initially thought it would be, and it just looks great. You might have noticed by now that the game opts for a PS1 style of graphics, including warping textures and all the jagged crunchiness that comes with that. But if you don't like that sort of thing, you can actually disable it. There are plenty of options here, and I do love a game with options. And completely irrelevant, but can we talk about the music for a second? It's an unexpectedly varied soundtrack, ranging from stuff like this at the start, to stuff like this later on, and even mixing in some classical music. Or some old-timey radio stuff for the menus. By all means, you'd think this blend might not work, and yet it does. The soundtrack for Ultrakill is also mostly composed by Hikita, and god, just how many talents does this guy have? Please, leave some for the rest of us. And with a soundtrack called Infinite Hyperdeath, how can you expect it to not blow your brain right out of your skull and parry it into the next dimension? Alright, so now I'm going to talk about a few spoilerific things. I'd highly recommend playing the game first, so if you don't want to be spoiled, go away. Now that we've got that out of the way, how about those bosses? Jesus Christ, they are not messing around. Most of the early ones I thought were fine. Sora's machine went down pretty easy, and the others were very much just introducing tougher generic enemies like Cerberus and the Malicious Face. None of them gave me that much of a problem, and I had it in my head that I was good at this game. Not much was killing me, and any deaths I did have were out of pure carelessness. But what a fool I was. Level 1-4 faces you off with V2. A robot with many of the same moves that you have. A mirror match was always going to be a good choice for this game, but this was just a watershed moment for me. This was the point where I realized I wasn't good at Ultrakill, because I died. A lot. Again and again. I'd like to add that this whole time I've been playing on Violent, which is the hard mode, and this was the point where I said to myself, maybe I've got my difficulty up too high. But I have my pride, and through blood, sweat, tears, and a packet of Maltesers buttons, thanks mum, I got through it. But holy crap, it was clear now. The kiddie gloves had come off, and this game was ready to grab me by the ankles and shake me for my lunch money. And V2 is one of the earlier ones. Check out this dude.
Doing it and doing it well. Doing it and doing it and doing it well. Doing it and doing it and doing it well. I represent Taco Bell Dorito Shop.
I wouldn't say King Minos was as difficult or perhaps as fun as V2, but it's still tricky. And god, the scale here. The spectacle. What I love as well is that you can see this guy in the distance as you work up to this level. In any other game, he'd be like a final boss. And actually, he did remind me a bit of the Icon of Sin from Doom Eternal, which is looking somewhat quaint now. The bosses in this game would eat marauders for breakfast, because then there's Gabriel. Oh, Gabriel.
Machine, turn back now. The layers of this palace are not for your kind. Turn back, or you will be crossing the will of God.
Again, this is another one worthy of an endgame boss. So many bosses in this first act feel like a final boss, and yet they're not. Though Gabriel is the last boss of this act. Gabriel is an angel, and he's fast and deadly. I can't count how many attempts to beat him have resulted in my swift death. But like I said before, you're back in quickly. And on top of the quick respawn, it also streamlines the boss intros whenever you come back in. I really appreciate that kind of thing. This game wants to challenge you, not waste your time. I think that some games forget that and get the two mixed up. I eventually got the first phase of Gabriel mostly down, but the second phase, just how? I couldn't even stay alive long enough to figure out his attacks. At this point, I was really considering jumping down a difficulty, but no. No, there has to be something that I missed. I put the game down for a night, sat on it for a bit, and I recalled a set of strange slabs on the level where you fight V2, numbered 1 through 4. The level itself was 1-4. I knew the game had secrets, but I hadn't really sought them out at that point. So I jumped back a few levels because the game lets you do that and keep your arsenal, just to improve your ranking. And my instincts were right. Slabs were hidden in 1-1 through 1-4. Some taking extra dexterity to find, others offering interesting encounters. This is familiar. And one thing I wanted to try was putting both skulls on the pedestals in 1-3. I knew that had to do something cool, and I was right. Oh god.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
But with that, it's 4 for 4, resulting in a revolver. Huh. I wonder if it's any better. Oh my. I am blessed this day. This is an alternate revolver you can switch between in the weapons menu. It packs a much heavier punch, but is a bit slower. This is it though. This has to be the key to beating Gabriel. Okay, so like I still died a lot, but eventually, through blood, sweat and tears, I did it. I did it. You can actually see me catching my breath at the end here. It took a lot out of me to get through this, and something like 43 attempts. Can I just say as well, I love Gabriel's voice. He's an absolute drama queen, and I adore the way he's played.
You insignificant f***! This is not over!
He's voiced by Gianni Matragrano, who you might know as the guy who voices like every single retro shooter meme. Chances are if you see a video meme with Duke Nukem or Caleb in it, it's his voice behind it. I adore his work, and it's so exciting to hear him have a role in this. Especially with how Act 1 ends, there's this gorgeous artwork of Gabriel, disgraced from his defeat, stripped of his godly powers and hell-bent, or rather, heaven-bent on revenge. He's such a petty little baby man, and I can't wait to kick his butt a second time.
What's going on in here?
He's a jerk. He is being such a jerk. It's an awful thing to say to a human being.
Are you crying?
No, I'm not crying, okay? I'm allergic to jerks.
Okay, Andy out.
The prose is really great here too, really well written stuff. I gotta say, I am hyped for Act 2, Imperfect Hatred. Because if this is just Act 1, I can't even fathom what horrors are in store for the rest of it. So is there anything else available right now, or is that the full game? Well, there is a survival mode called the Cyber Grind, where you can practice your skills and try out different weapons. You can also customize it with literally any image you want, and it comes pre-packaged with Big John's face. Oh god, why? Wouldn't it be funny though, if I put in some Half-Life textures? That'd just be great. That'd be... damn it, I must have put the files in wrong. I'll definitely be doing a full episode of Scarfillo on this game once all the acts are released, but for now, I just wanted to share this game with you and encourage you to pick it up if you're the type of person who enjoys a healthy dose of pain. Like me. In the meantime, I'm going to be doing some hand exercises and playing the game in measured doses to avoid repetitive strain injury. Please, Ultrakill responsibly.